Wow. It's absolutely beautiful. I've just got back from a month-long trip, the fridge is empty, and it is time to stock up. I'm gonna be showing you everything I stock up on to stay lean, stay strong, stay energized, stay satisfied, stay feeling tip-top. I'm gonna break up the foods into 4 categories: proteins, carbs, fats, and flavor flavs, or extras, or things just that don't really belong into a category. And then at the end, we're gonna whip up together a little high protein meal because we're hanging out. Now, we are gonna start off with proteins, my most prized possession. This right here is my ground beef. Now, let me tell you how I order my ground beef. When I go to my butcher to pick up my really awesome pasture-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, what they have in the glass window is 90-10 ground beef. Now, I like my beef a little leaner. I want that lean protein, okay? I don't need the 10% fat in my protein sources. So, I asked them if they can grind it for me a little bit leaner, and of course they say yes. Now, when I make that order, I ask for them to give it back to me in portions that just make my life a little bit easier. So for example, all you see these packets, they're in 400-gram portions. One of my portions is about 200 grams, right? I just make it really simple for myself. So what I do is I come home, I dump all of these in the freezer, and all I do every day or every other day is I take one out. That's it. I'll put it in the fridge or put it on the counter, whatever, to thaw. But that keeps my life so simple. So when I do my orders, I do, a big order like this. This will be, 30 dinners. I think I got 15. And so it stays in the freezer, and all I have to do is just pull one out that morning or every other morning, whatever, how often I'm eating beef. Super simple, serious hack to just being prepared all the time. Protein number 2, of course, would we even be a fitness channel without a chicken breast? You know what I'm saying? Of course, we stock up with the chicken breast. It's just my other go-to protein source. This year, I've just been so into lean ground beef, but some days, some recipes are better with chicken, and chicken's also just really easy, We always have a few, and I'm having chicken breast at least once a week. So chicken breast is always there in the freezer as well. Next protein source, frozen bag of shrimp. Now, I always like to buy a bag of frozen shrimp just because it's like a little insurance policy in my freezer. If I'm out of anything, it's just really fast to thaw out, takes a couple minutes, and it just stays in the freezer. It's just like a little backup plan. Next protein source, we are moving into our bacon. Now, you might be thinking, bacon, that's really fatty. What are you talking about? This is back bacon, also known as, or very similar to, Canadian bacon. Now, this is very lean. So, for example, 100 grams of this is 109 calories and 16 grams of protein. So what I'll do is I can cook up some eggs, cook this as well, mix it into my eggs, and easily get another 16 grams of protein with a nice little savory element. So bacon is not bad. It's when you're buying really, really fatty bacon, you're keeping all the fat in the pan, and then you're mixing that into your eggs, and calories are gonna go up really quick. So I like to buy this. This is some local back bacon. I like to just keep it on hand. Done. Next up, we have one of our true loves. It's our cottage cheese. Chicks, let's walk you through. Now, these are the 2 go-to cottage cheeses that I buy as of late. We have the Avalon Organics, like normal cottage cheese, the curds, it's creamy, we love it. It's 1%. Now, look, I don't have access to Good Culture. I don't know what's in Good Culture. So yes, it has some gums, Arabic gum, how do you pronounce that? It's the best one that I've read on the labels that comes in this kind of form of cottage cheese. So this is what I buy. It also, flavor out of all the other ones, Canadian girls, this one is second to none, okay? I use this is the pressed one, so they have 2 different purposes. Now, I do wanna say I buy 1% because I'm using it as a protein source. If I was gonna use it for fats or things like that, then I would buy more full fat. But I like to use cottage cheese as an extra bit of protein, so I buy the lower fat and I get my fats elsewhere. That's that cottage cheese. This one, ladies, if you haven't seen this one at Costco yet, this one is by MC Dairy. It actually comes in a bigger package, but I've already cut it. This one only has 2 ingredients. It's one of my favorites, pasteurized skim milk, bacterial culture. This is super high protein, 27 grams for half a cup. Freaking insane, 130 calories. It's pressed, it's almost like a tofu or a feta, but I freaking love it. I'll crumble it onto eggs. You can blend this up and make the cottage cheese viral wrap. Again, you can pretty much do a lot of the same things, really. You can blend this up and it can do the same thing, but it's a bit more of a savory-ish vibe, I find, than this. But that, chicks, we gotta have both. That's why we buy both, all right? I've got both these on hand. Cottage cheese. And next up in our protein category, we have the Kirkland egg whites. Trusty, trusty egg whites. Are we bodybuilders? Yes, we are. Now, just easy, very straightforward. It's a straight protein source. So it's a very easy thing to add to, I eat a lot of eggs. So when I want to really build up the volume, make it real big, make it real high protein, you know what I mean? You see the bicep, where do you think it comes from? You know what I'm saying? So you can make pancakes, you can do all sorts of things with egg whites, right? Very simple thing to just keep in the fridge. Egg whites, I always have. And our next protein source is our eggs. We go through these bad boys quick, so I'm always at least buying 24 at once. I've even got some extra here. Now, eggs belong in two categories, proteins and fats. You get, in one egg, you're getting 6 grams of protein and 5 grams of fat. So it's almost 1-to-1. So they serve both purposes for me. So I wanna say that in the fat category, these would be there as well because I use them for both. When I want a little bit more protein, I will have another egg. If I also want a really nutritious fat added to a meal, I'll also toss in an egg. So Will and I go through a ton all the time. Making sure that they're pasture raised is important to me so that the chickens are not stuck in a little tiny cage and eating corn and soy. So eggs, always. Next protein source that I always have in the fridge is the Kirkland 0% organic Greek yogurt. Again, straightforward. It's just a straight protein source that kind of just, you can use for anything, right? I make a lot of sauces out of this sauce, and I also use it as like a sour cream. I dump it on a lot of my bowls. It just adds a really nice creamy, if you're somebody who likes to eat big, messy, gooey bowls like me, this is like incredible. I always put a big dollop on my bowls with like hot sauce, salsa, and it adds so much for very little calories, and it's just straight protein and takes on the flavor of whatever the hell you want. So 0% Greek yogurt, always have it there. And last protein source I want to bring up today, I didn't buy it because I already had it, but is protein powder. I do eat protein powder. It does help me. And so I will mix this into oats, or I'll make little desserts or anything like that. So this is the brand. I have no affiliate. I don't work with any brand, but I do like this one. It's Kaha Nutrition Whey Protein Isolate. This is the chocolate, and I like it because it's sweetened with monk fruit. It's literally cocoa and monk fruit. We are moving on to our fats category. We have number 1, butter. I use butter to cook most things when I'm cooking my eggs. Sometimes I'll just throw butter on top of things where I just know that it's lacking fat, because butter tastes like sex. And if you don't like butter, the taste of butter, I can't say that I can trust you as a person. So salted butter, by the way, because I salt things and I like salt, and that's why, because it tastes better. Next up in the fats category, something we always have in the fridge is some raw cheeses. Parm and our Pecorino Romano. This is one of our favorites from Costco. We use this a lot. So why do I like these cheeses? Number 1, flavor is superior. This is my choice. I mean, I'm Italian. I think that's probably why, but these are the tastiest cheeses ever. Number 2, raw cheese, which means it has not been pasteurized. It says on there, unpasteurized cheese. It hasn't gone through the high heat process that kills the harmful bacteria. Now, the benefit of not going through it is that it also keeps some of the good bacteria. And there's a lot of good things about raw cheese. Contains vitamins, A, B, zinc. There's good bacteria in here that is great for your gut. Personally, my favorite, the cheeses, if I'm gonna eat cheese, it's these. And occasionally, sometimes, we will buy feta as well. There's no reason, it's just that we eat a lot of this, but I do also buy some feta. Next up in the fats category, we have avocados. Again, something we always have on. These are the things that when I'm looking at my meal and it needs fat, I'm adding either cheese or avocado or both. So always have a bag of avos for healthy fats. And last but not least is an avocado mayo. Same. I personally don't use this very often, to be completely transparent with you, just because it's very high in calories for a very small portion. I'd rather grate cheese all over a dish. However, if I'm going to use a mayo, you know, put something on the side of my potatoes, or in like a stir fry with like tamari, you know, that like QP mayo vibe, I don't want to use like a seed oil based or sunflower oil. I would rather use avocado mayo. Next one, we've got some tallow. Now, be honest with you, haven't used tallow yet. This is something we bought this time, but I know it's gonna be perfect. For cooking our meats at high temperatures, we either don't really use oil or we'll use butter. We try not to use olive oil because it's not meant to be heated that high, but when we're cooking like our chicken breast on a cast iron pan, it needs something with a really high smoke point. It'll be like this, or ghee or butter. And last but not least is definitely the cold pressed organic extra virgin olive oil. Of course, I'm using some of this. Now, when I'm not cooking things on like extremely high temperatures, when it's like maybe like a slow egg scramble, or I want to drizzle it on arugula or like our salads, this is what I use, okay? Now, we are moving on to the carbs category, which I think people might be surprised because they would expect to see a lot of what they think in their mind as carbohydrates. I get my carbohydrates from plant sources, nature's carbohydrates most of the time, right? I'm not a never person. I have no rules. Sometimes I will have, you know, go out and I'll order a pasta or whatever. But as for what is in my house and what I'm eating 99% of the time, that's what I want to show you because that's what makes up my diet. It's the kabocha squash. Now, chicks, I think it's very important to mention, I do not discriminate squashes. Now, sometimes I'll get whatever I can get my hands on. If kabocha is there, it's gonna be my first choice. I just like the flavor of it so freaking much. But I do a lot of spaghetti squash, acorn as well. In Australia, I lived off the Japanese or Kent pumpkin, freaking to die for. Something has happened to me, there's an emergency, and you should check on me if you open up our cupboard and the squash is gone. Why do I eat a ton of squash? It is, number one, delicious. Number two, it adds so much volume to your meals. It's tasty and low calorie, okay? So if you're someone like me who likes to eat big amounts of food, right? With not a ton of calories, you're trying to keep it lean, you gotta find foods that really tick those flavor boxes, give you big amounts of food for low calories, and for me, that's the kabocha squash. It's about 35 calories for 100 grams, and so I can have like 500 grams, like a whole pan with my protein, and feel pretty damn good. Next up, in the carb category, we have white potatoes, another staple. I do love white potatoes. They're very satisfying and not a ton of calories. The calories really add up as soon as you start dressing them in tons of olive oil and stuff. So this is a staple that's in our house. I don't eat them as frequently. I also really love sweet potatoes. But again, it'd be maybe like a once a week thing just because I'm so addicted to squash. But potatoes are always in my house, so have to mention. No. Next up in the carbs category, what I eat a ton of is berries. Now, I always just buy the organic frozen big bags because it's much better value for organic. Small things of organic berries are like cost an arm and a leg, and I eat them in about 10 seconds. So I always buy this big bag from Costco. This lasts me so long. So I will dump this in my oats and I stir it in as it's cooking, and so they thaw out in the oats, and that's really nice. I'll put a bunch of them in there. Or you can like thaw these out, and then when they're I don't like eating frozen berries. I don't know, I know chicks do that. I don't like it. Feels like I'm chewing on ice, but say I wanted to put some on top of yogurt bowls or whatever, I'll just know ahead of time and I'll like throw them out or put them out in the sun or whatever. Next up, in the carbs category, something else that I do use is oats. These ones are the organic glyphosate-free sprouted oats, or you can buy unsprouted. Try to look for the glyphosate-free for sure, not just the plain Quaker, because glyphosate is not good for you and it's all over the shit in oats. So this is something that I do also buy as a carbohydrate source. Always got a bag or two in the cupboard. Now, the rest of my carbs are basically just vegetables. I always have dark leafy greens. We love arugula. We eat a lot of that, like cows. I like buying mushrooms to add a lot of yummy flavor, but also volume to things like my egg dishes, or even mix into my beef or stir fries, whatever. So I like buying, these are the shiitake organic ones just from Costco. Sometimes if I want a recipe that has some broccoli, I buy some broccoli, but that's pretty much it for the carbs. I guess compared to most, typical diets out there, you would think that I'm eating a lower carb diet, and maybe so. I don't like to to say that I have a specific diet because I also just got back from Italy and Greece, and I ate a pita or a bowl of pasta every night for 3 weeks. So I don't live a low carb life because otherwise I wouldn't be eating that every day. But in my typical day to day, my carbs are coming from, other than the oats, pretty much just nature's sources. Oh, one more. This is the raw honey from Costco. Again, raw meaning unpasteurized, meaning it's got some of the goods left inside of it because it hasn't been heated to an extreme high temperature. I use this as well as a carb source for sure. I will sometimes just have a spoon of it, like before a run or before a workout. I'll put it on top of cottage cheese, put it on top of my eggs. I don't know if you've seen me do that, but I eat that a lot for a pre-workout. It's one of my favorite combos ever. So this is definitely a quick carbohydrate source. When I want like a boost of energy, it'll usually be like a pre-workout carb. I just want to mention before we move on to the flavor enhancers, little boosters fun category, all the extras, not to take all these foods as gospel and that if it's not one of these foods, you shouldn't eat it or it's bad or I don't eat it if it's not on this list, because this is kind of like my staples. I just got home from a trip and I always have these, but do I venture out and have different vegetables or different fruits? Absolutely, yes. So just keep that in mind. I don't live in absolutes and my diet it goes beyond, the foods that you're seeing here, but just keep in mind, these are the staples that are the first things that I bought as soon as I got home because I eat them 99% of the time. First up in our fun little extras category is going to be salsa. I always have salsa or pico de gallo in my fridge. I prefer the fresh ones. This one's like from my butcher. It's just such an easy, low calorie thing to dump on top of my bowls that adds so much flavor for very few calories. So I eat a ton of salsa. I go through this really, really quick, but eggs, bowls, you name it, I dump salsa on top of it. I love the flavor of the fresh stuff. So number 2 is my fermented foods. I am obsessed with kimchi and sauerkraut. You guys, I eat this out of the jar and I have to stop myself but if I'm not careful, I'll just sit there and finish the whole thing. So I have to hold myself back. I'm obsessed. I just love the tanginess and pickledness, fermentation-ness, tang of it. But either or, okay? They kind of serve the same purpose. They're fermented veg that acts as a probiotic and feeding the good bacteria in your gut. Next up in this category, jar of pickles. If I can, I like to keep a jar of pickles in the fridge. It doesn't last very long, I'll be honest. I probably finish it in 2-3 days, but it's a nice salty snack when I have a little savory craving. A whole pickle is 5 calories, so I like keeping a jar of pickles in the fridge. Next up in this extras category is my milk. Now, I use milk as my big dashes and things. So in my morning coffee, in my tea, in a little hot cacao. This is the milk that I use. This is 2% organic grass-fed milk. Sometimes I buy the 3% or the 2. I don't usually buy skim, 1%. I like a little bit of cream in there. So this is the milk that I buy. All right, other little flavor enhancers, the things that I'm putting all on top of my bowls. Now, I love hot sauces, okay? So I use a lot of Cholula. I really like Valentina. I absolutely love Frank's. I was kind of known as the Frank's girl, for a long time. Before I left for Australia, I was a waitress, and one of my party tricks was I would do shots of Frank's, like a solid amount of Frank's. I'm actually salivating thinking about it. I still really love Frank's so much that when I think about it in my mouth, I get a little bit hot and bothered. But I would do that of Frank's. Yeah, so I eat a lot of Frank's. I do like Frank's. Good on top of bowls with Greek yogurt. It's mimicking a sour cream taco bowl. Oh, to die for. We also have a sriracha, also good on top of Asian-y style bowls. And then sometimes I use a organic tamari for those salty moments. Other little kind of extra honorable mentions that I use pretty much every day for sure is gonna be this ground cinnamon and cocoa powder. I pretty much will always have some sort of chocolate treat, whether it's gonna be the oats or I love my go-to is the cottage cheese mousse that I make, and that involves cocoa. So I always have cocoa in my cupboard, so I wanted to make sure that I show you that. Cinnamon goes in my coffee. I also put it on top of desserts and drinks, stuff like that. I use quite a bit of cinnamon. So these two always in the cupboard. And then of course we have our things like our garlic, onion, we got some green onion, whatever's gonna jazz up the flavor of the meals and make them gangster tasting. Now, it is time for us to make a yummy meal. Your girl is very hungry, so let's do it. Now, I always get asked how I bake my kabocha squash, so today we're gonna show you. I'm gonna cut it really roughly, just in like kind of chunks. You can go big, you can go small. Oh, I know it's gonna be a good one because it is a nice, deep orange. The squash queen has been excited. Now here's how I bake it. I take my pan, I line it with parchment paper. I put the squash on top. I peel back the corner of the parchment paper and I'm gonna put, let's just make this easier. I have a bottle of water right here from the airplane. I'm gonna put some water right underneath it. I just pour in like, whatever, a couple tablespoons so there's water in there. I take aluminum foil, I cover it, cover the whole pan. And now it's going to steam so the kabocha comes out nice and soft. Now what I do is when it's pretty much done, like I can stick a fork through, it's nice and soft, I'll either eat it like that, or if I want it a bit more crispy, I will take the foil off and I'll let it bake for another 10, 15, so it has some nice brown edges. But that's it, I salt it after, I don't add any olive oil. I don't think it needs it, so this is going in. Now I'm gonna make a really fast, easy dinner for Will and I. I'm gonna boil chicken so that I can shred it and have pulled chicken. I'm gonna bring it to a boil and then I'm gonna let it simmer for 12 to 15 minutes. All right, we're gonna make a very simple sauce. Taking our Avalon cottage cheese, first we taste test. That's the first cottage cheese I've had in a month. I love you and I missed you. We're gonna put cottage cheese into our blender. We're gonna take our Franks and pour. We're gonna do the heavy pour. Take that off. We are not weak, okay? And we're gonna heavy pour. Good amount in there. Yes. I'm gonna do a little bit of garlic powder and start there. You gotta hit it from the back. We're gonna give it a taste. This is really just putting fat loss on easy mode. That's gonna go in the fridge. All right, the chicken is ready and I'm just shredding these two big breasts that are gonna be for Will and I. Very simple and straightforward. That was really, really quick. Shredding! We're going to Shred City, bro. It would be very neat to have one of the kitchen tools that would shred this for me. Now, not something I normally buy, celery, but I think it's gonna go really nice in this and add some crisp and freshness. So I'm gonna chop this up. You need that contrast in a dish, you know? The salty is good because of the creamy, or the creaminess is good because of some of the crunchy. Now we're gonna pour in our really creamy buffalo dip. Oh my gosh. So my thing is like buffalo. Anything that can taste like buffalo wings is me. My childhood, any like after school dinners, if we got to go out to dinner, was always hot wings with a side of Frank's or buffalo sauce, like extra sauce. I'm just a bit, that's like my whole life. I think about it, I'd be in my school uniform, just drinking hot sauce. Just an obsession from a really young age. And now we're gonna just mix that together. Let me just show you this. It's like, oh, let's try some. It's the celery that adds that nostalgia. You're in a pub, you've just got your wings, there's the blue cheese sauce, and there's those celery sticks. All right, I'm gonna cut up some of my leafy greens. This one was hiding behind my other greens, so it didn't make it into my video when I was showing all my other greens, but I do love these greens as well. It's kind of like a butter lettuce. What would you call that kind? Love these ones. I'm not gonna use the arugula for this one. I want it to be a little bit lighter in flavor. I'm gonna take a bunch of our creamy chicken, dump it right on there. Guys, our kabocha squash turned out freaking amazing. I'm gonna put that on there as well. It has been salted on this pan. Oh, it's like falling apart. Oh my gosh. And yes, I eat the skin. It's edible. Now, the last thing that's missing from this bowl, we've got our protein, we've got cottage cheese, we've got our carbs from nature, is a fat source. Now, I was torn between avocado and pecorino for a nice salt kick. The avocado, I just checked them all, they're not ready. I'm a little bit excited actually about that because I think this is gonna be a little bit better. We're gonna go with the pecorino. Now, the opportunities are endless. You could go ahead and add some salsa, a bit more hot sauce to kind of add that more redness. You know, like I like to see 2-color sauces on my bowls. Maybe I'm just weird like that. I'm gonna have this as is. This is easily gonna clock in at 50 grams of protein because it's tons of chicken. So here we go. I highly recommend you put in some element that adds a bit of crisp and freshness. Cucumber, celery, green onion, something to break that up because that evens it out so perfectly. Oh my gosh, to die for. And that took me so fast. That kabocha in the oven at 425 took 25 minutes in total. That is better than any restaurant salad that I would pay 25 bucks for, and way more chicken. They never give you enough chicken. That concludes this grocery haul. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, it would mean so much to me if you liked and or subscribed. Anything for me would be fantastic and I would be so grateful. I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, ciao.